Welcome to English Bookshelf, where every book becomes a mirror and every story helps you rediscover yourself. If you've ever wondered, how does business actually work? Not the fancy words, not the complicated theories, but the real mechanics behind money, value, and success. This story is for you. Most people believe that to understand business, you need an MBA, years of study, huge fees, complex formulas. Josh Kaufman strongly disagrees, and that disagreement became the personal MBA. Josh Kaufman wrote this book after realizing something simple and powerful. Business is not magic. It's not reserved for elites. And it's not as complicated as people pretend it is. Business, at its core, follows a few timeless principles. And once you understand those principles, you can understand any business. This book is not about becoming a corporate executive. It's about understanding how value is created, how money flows, and why some ideas succeed while others fail. Josh Kaufman doesn't talk like a professor. He talks like someone who wants you to actually get it. He believes that if you understand how humans make decisions, how value is perceived, and how systems operate, you already know more than most business graduates. The personal MBA begins with a simple truth. Every business exists for one reason: to create value for other people. Without value, nothing else matters. No marketing, no sales, no profit. Value is not what you think is important. Value is what other people are willing to pay for. And this is where most people fail. They build products they like. They chase ideas that sound impressive. But they never ask the most important question: who is this actually helping? And how? Josh explains that businesses succeed when they solve real problems, painful problems, urgent problems, problems people already want solved. The bigger and clearer the problem, the more valuable the solution becomes. Think about your own life. What do you pay for easily? Convenience, time saving, relief from stress, comfort, status. These are not random. They're human desires. And business is simply the process of serving those desires efficiently. Once value exists, the next challenge appears: letting people know about it. This is where marketing comes in. Josh Kaufman explains marketing in a way that feels refreshing. Marketing is not manipulation. It's not tricks. It's not noise. Marketing is attention. If nobody knows you exist, you don't have a business. You have a hobby. Marketing is about placing your value in front of the right people. Not everyone, just the ones who care. Most businesses fail because they try to talk to everyone and end up connecting with no one. Josh explains that great marketing feels like understanding. It says, I know what you're struggling with, and I can help. When people feel understood, they listen. But attention alone is not enough. Interest must turn into action. This is where sales enters the picture. Sales is not convincing people to do something bad. Sales is helping people make a decision that improves their life. People don't buy products. They buy outcomes. They buy clarity. They buy relief. They buy confidence. Josh explains that good sales removes fear. It answers unspoken questions. Will this work for me? Is this worth the money? Can I trust this? When trust appears, decisions become easy. But even a successful sale means nothing if the business cannot deliver consistently. This brings us to operations. Operations are the invisible systems that make everything work. How things are created, how they are delivered, how problems are handled. Most people ignore this part because it's not exciting. But businesses don't collapse from bad ideas. They collapse from bad systems. Josh explains that a good business is boring on the inside. Processes are clear. Expectations are defined. Mistakes are reduced. And when systems work smoothly, stress disappears. Then comes money, the part that scares many people. Josh Kaufman removes the fear by simplifying it. Money is just a tool, a measurement of value exchange. You earn money when you create value efficiently. You lose money when costs exceed value. Profit is not greed. Profit is proof. Proof that value was created sustainably. Without profit, a business cannot survive. And something that cannot survive cannot serve anyone long term. Josh also talks about pricing, one of the most misunderstood topics. People underprice because they feel guilty or because they are afraid of rejection. But pricing is a signal. Low prices often signal low value. High prices signal confidence and quality. The right price reflects the real value delivered, not your fear. As the book goes deeper, it becomes clear that business is not about intelligence alone. It's about decision making. Every day, businesses make decisions. Small ones, big ones. Josh explains that good decisions come from understanding trade-offs. You cannot optimize everything. More speed usually means less quality. More growth often means more risk. More control can reduce creativity. Understanding these balances is what separates stable businesses from chaotic ones. And then there is human behavior. Josh reminds us that businesses are built by humans and served by humans, which means emotions matter, bias matters, psychology matters. People avoid pain. They seek comfort. They follow social proof. They trust familiarity. Ignore human behavior, and no system will save you. One of the most powerful ideas in the personal MBA is that learning business is not about memorizing terms. It's about seeing patterns. Once you understand how value, marketing, sales, operations, and finance connect, you can walk into any industry and understand what's happening. You stop being confused. You start seeing clearly. This is why the book is so powerful. It doesn't teach you how to run one business. It teaches you how all businesses work. And this is only the beginning of the journey. Because once you understand the mechanics of business, a deeper question emerges. How do you build something that lasts? Without burning out, without losing ethics, without losing yourself? When you look closer, you begin to notice something surprising. Most businesses don't fail because the idea was bad. They fail because the execution was confused. Josh Kaufman takes the story deeper by explaining that business is not about genius. It's about clarity. Clarity about what you are offering. Clarity about who it is for. Clarity about how value flows from one side to the other. One of the most powerful ideas in the personal MBA is that every successful business solves a specific kind of problem. And most of those problems fall into a few familiar human patterns. People want to save time. They want to avoid effort. They want to reduce uncertainty. They want to feel safe. They want to feel important. When you understand this, business stops feeling mysterious. You start seeing it everywhere. Why do people pay more for convenience? Why do brands matter? Why do simple solutions often win over complex ones? Because business is not about logic alone. It's about perception. Josh explains that value is subjective. Two people can look at the same product and see completely different value. One sees a price. The other sees a solution. This is why understanding your customer matters more than perfect features. People don't buy what you make. They buy what it means to them. Then the book shifts towards something many people avoid thinking about. Risk. Every business involves risk. There is no way around it. But Josh Kaufman shows that risk can be managed. Not eliminated, but understood. Most failures come from ignoring obvious risks. Running out of cash. Depending on a single customer. Growing too fast. Not listening to feedback. Business rewards those who pay attention early. Small problems are easy to fix. Big problems are expensive. This is where feedback becomes essential. Josh explains that businesses that survive are not the ones that are always right. They're the ones that adapt quickly. They listen. They observe. They adjust. Feedback is not criticism. It's information. And information, when used well, saves time, money, and energy. Another important idea in the book is leverage. Leverage is doing less work while creating more value. This can come from systems, from technology, from processes, from skills that scale. A business that depends entirely on constant effort is fragile. A business that builds leverage becomes resilient. Josh explains that this is why systems matter so much. Systems allow value to be delivered repeatedly without starting from zero each time. This is where many entrepreneurs burn out. They try to do everything themselves. They become the bottleneck. But business is not about doing everything. It's about designing things so work flows smoothly. Then comes an uncomfortable truth. Not all growth is good. Josh Kaufman explains that growth without stability creates chaos. More customers mean more responsibility, more complexity, more pressure. If systems are weak, growth magnifies problems. This is why smart businesses grow carefully. They strengthen foundations before expanding. Growth is not a race. It's a test. As the story continues, the book turns inward, toward the person behind the business. Josh talks about decision fatigue, stress, burnout. Running a business without understanding yourself is dangerous because emotions influence decisions more than logic. Fear leads to hesitation. Ego leads to bad investments. Stress leads to short-term thinking. Understanding business also means understanding your own behavior. The book reminds us that businesses are long games. Quick wins fade. Sustainable systems endure. This is why patience matters. Many people quit right before things start working. Not because the idea failed, but because they ran out of clarity. Josh Kaufman doesn't promise shortcuts. He offers understanding. And understanding creates confidence. By now, something important has shifted. Business no longer feels like a secret world. It feels like a set of principles you can learn, apply, improve, and the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes. Business is not about money first. Money follows value. Business is not about hustle first. Systems come before speed. Business is not about being perfect. It's about being aware. And this awareness changes how you see everything. Products, jobs, companies, even your own career. Because once you understand how value is created and exchanged, you stop feeling powerless. You start asking better questions. Why does this work? Why does this fail? Where's the real value here? And those questions are powerful. If this way of seeing business is starting to make sense, if it's changing how you look at ideas and opportunities, then you're right where this book wants you to be. There is still more to uncover. About money, about systems, about building something that lasts. As the picture becomes clear, another truth quietly settles in. Money is not the goal of business. It is the feedback. Josh Kaufman explains that money tells a story. It tells you whether value is real, whether people truly care, whether your system is sustainable. Many people chase revenue without understanding this. They celebrate sales but ignore costs. They grow fast but forget cash flow. And suddenly, the business looks successful, but feels fragile. Josh simplifies this fear by showing that finance is not about complex math. It's about awareness. You need to know what comes in, what goes out, and how long you can survive if things slow down. Cash flow is oxygen. Without it, even the best ideas collapse. The book reminds us that profit is not selfish. Profit is what allows a business to continue serving. A business that cannot sustain itself, cannot help anyone for long. Then the focus shifts to pricing, a topic filled with emotion. People underprice because they're afraid. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of asking for what something is worth. But Josh Kaufman reframes pricing as honesty. If you underprice, you send a signal that you don't believe in your value. If you price with clarity, you attract the right people. People who respect what you offer. People who understand the exchange. Price is not about pleasing everyone. It's about alignment. The right customers stay. The wrong ones leave. And that is healthy. As the story deepens, the book turns towards systems again. Because systems determine how a business feels day to day. Chaos feels exhausting. Order feels calm. Josh explains that businesses don't scale through effort. They scale through structure. Clear processes reduce mistakes. Consistency builds trust. Simplicity creates speed. And when systems work, people breathe easier. This applies not just to companies, but to personal work as well. Your career is a system. Your habits are systems. Your decisions follow patterns. Once you see systems, you start improving them. Instead of blaming yourself, you ask, what is broken in the process? That shift alone removes shame. Then comes one of the most human parts of the book, psychology. Josh reminds us that logic is only part of decision making. Emotion often decides first. Logic just explains later. People fear loss more than they desire gain. They follow what others do. They avoid uncertainty. Ignoring this doesn't make you rational. It makes you blind. Good businesses respect human behavior. They design around it. This is why clarity matters. Why simplicity wins. Why trust is everything. Trust takes time to build and seconds to lose. As the pages turn, another quiet realization appears. Business is not separate from life. It is a reflection of how you think. If you rush, your business rushes. If you avoid discomfort, your business stays small. If you refuse feedback, growth stops. Josh Kaufman doesn't preach. He observes. And through those observations, a mindset emerges. Curiosity over ego. Awareness over speed. Long-term thinking over shortcuts. By now, business no longer feels intimidating. It feels understandable. You see that success is not about knowing everything. It's about understanding the fundamentals deeply. And fundamentals don't change. Technology evolves. Markets shift. Trends fade. But value, human behavior, systems, and decision-making remain. This is why the personal MBA stays relevant. It doesn't teach you how to chase opportunity. It teaches you how to recognize it. And once you recognize it, you stop guessing. You start choosing. As the ideas settle, the book begins to feel less like a guide to business and more like a guide to thinking clearly. Josh Kaufman gently brings everything back to one central question. What are you actually trying to build? Not just a product, not just a company, but a system that can survive reality. Because reality is unpredictable. Customers change. Markets shift. Energy rises and falls. And businesses that survive are not the ones that chase every opportunity. They're the ones that understand their limits. Josh explains that constraints are not weaknesses. They are boundaries that create focus. Limited time forces prioritization. Limited money forces creativity. Limited energy forces efficiency. When you accept constraints instead of fighting them, your decisions become sharper. You stop chasing everything. You start choosing what matters. This is where many people make a mistake. They believe success means endless growth. More customers, more revenue, more expansion. But Josh challenges this belief. Growth that outpaces understanding creates stress. Growth without structure creates fragility. Sometimes, the smartest move is not to grow, but to stabilize, to strengthen systems, to refine value, to improve delivery. Because a strong foundation supports future growth. A weak one collapses under pressure. Then the book turns towards something deeply personal. Responsibility. When you build a business, your decisions affect others. Customers, partners, employees, your own family. Josh emphasizes that ethical decisions are not separate from good business. They are part of it. Trust is a form of capital. Lose it, and everything becomes harder. A business that harms people to grow eventually harms itself. This idea quietly reshapes how you view success. It's no longer just about numbers. It's about sustainability. Can this business exist without constant crisis? Can it support a life instead of consuming it? Josh believes the best businesses are boring in the best way. Predictable, stable, reliable. They don't rely on heroics. They rely on systems. This mindset removes pressure. You don't need to be extraordinary every day. You need to be consistent. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds loyalty. Loyalty builds longevity. As the book continues, you start noticing something important. The same principles apply everywhere. Your job is a system. Your finances are a system. Your time is a system. Once you understand how systems work, you stop blaming outcomes and start improving processes. This shift is powerful. It replaces frustration with curiosity, confusion with clarity. You no longer ask, "Why is this failing?" You ask, "What is this system designed to produce?" And that question changes everything. Josh Kaufman's greatest gift in this book is not information, it's perspective. He doesn't overwhelm you with complexity. He strips it away. He shows that business is simply the ongoing exchange of value, managed through decisions, supported by systems, and shaped by human behavior. Once you see that, you can't unseen it. You start recognizing good businesses. You start spotting weak ones. You understand why some ideas feel right and others feel forced. And quietly, confidence grows. Not the loud kind, the steady kind, the kind that comes from understanding. And with that understanding comes calm. You no longer feel like business is something mysterious happening to you. It's something you can engage with, thoughtfully, intentionally, on your own terms. As everything comes together, the book reaches its quiet conclusion. And something important becomes clear. Understanding business is not about ambition alone. It's about alignment. Alignment between what you offer and what people need. Alignment between effort and outcome. Alignment between work and life. Josh Kaufman never tells you to chase success blindly. He invites you to define it for yourself. Because once you understand how businesses actually work, you stop being impressed by appearances. You stop chasing titles. You stop comparing paths. You stop mistaking noise for progress. You begin to see that real success is sustainable. It doesn't drain you every day. It doesn't require constant emergencies. It doesn't collapse the moment attention shifts. It grows steadily, quietly, intentionally. This is where the personal MBA becomes more than a business book. It becomes a way of thinking about work and life. You realize that you don't need permission to understand business. You don't need a classroom. You don't need a certificate. You need curiosity. You need awareness. And you need the willingness to observe how things really work. Josh Kaufman shows that once you understand fundamentals, you can learn anything faster. A new industry no longer feels intimidating. A new opportunity feels less risky. A new idea feels more grounded. Because you are no longer guessing. You are evaluating. You understand value. You understand incentives. You understand trade-offs. And that understanding gives you freedom. Freedom to build. Freedom to choose. Freedom to walk away from ideas that look exciting but don't make sense. The book also leaves you with a powerful emotional shift. Business stops feeling like pressure. It starts feeling like problem solving. And problem solving is human. It's creative. It's thoughtful. It's meaningful. You stop asking, "How do I win?" You start asking, "How do I serve well?" And when service is honest and systems are clear, results follow naturally. This is the quiet promise of the personal MBA. You don't need to know everything. You just need to understand the essentials deeply. When you do, confidence replaces confusion. Clarity replaces stress. And work starts making sense. By the time you close this book, you don't feel smarter in a flashy way. You feel steadier. You feel capable. And that feeling matters. Because business is not a sprint. It's a long conversation with reality. And those who listen carefully, adapt thoughtfully, and build patiently are the ones who last. If this journey through the personal MBA changed the way you see business, if it made things feel simpler instead of heavier, then the book has done its job. And if you enjoy ideas that strip away confusion and replace it with understanding, you're always welcome here. This is English Bookshelf, where books don't just teach you how to do more, they help you understand better. You can share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to continue exploring meaningful ideas. And come back anytime you want clarity instead of noise. We'll be here.